Megan, I'm going to come to you because one of the things you said, you spoke earlier, is that there's a tremendous misconception about why people are homeless or why they are where they are. If we continue at the level, even with the lofty goals and ideals that the mayor presented, but if we continue at the level and housing continue to be, or affordable housing at any rate, continues to be out of the reach of the average citizen, how are you going to amend the conversation that you have with individuals or with groups when you speak with them? Because I foresee that you might have to keep having this conversation about why there are so many homeless people, and what are some of the things you might be prepared to say, or you think that you need to say as we move forward?
I think that we will continue to have conversations until this issue is one day resolved. I know it is hard to be that optimistic, but as I mentioned, in the nonprofit sector, we have to be. All issues are solvable when you work in this field, even if you don't think you'll be around to see that. I think what the mayor presented could solve a portion of the problem for our working homeless. There are people working 40 hours a week experiencing homelessness. So the version of affordable housing that could bring could potentially help with that issue. That does not necessarily account for people with severe and persistent mental illness, people who are being underpaid. So I think that the conversation, as I do prevention work, needs to be an understanding that it's not just about a nonprofit providing services, it's about legislation ensuring that landlords are not taking advantage. It's about legislation ensuring that we pay our people a livable wage, because hardly anybody in this community does make a livable wage. And yes, Lakeland is cheaper than Orlando or Tampa. We are also making less money. So comparably, we are one of the more expensive places you can currently live in Florida. It's because we're so fast growing, it's because we have great culture. Those are not things that people experiencing homelessness can take advantage of. They're too worried about where they're gonna spend the night. So I think the conversations need to be more expansive and more honest about what this issue really is, because it's not all on the people experiencing homelessness. It's on our legislators, it's on us who are claiming to do this work, and it's on citizens who themselves are not experiencing homelessness but need to be voting as if their loved ones are. And as we continue to and as you mentioned, we cannot have temporary solutions because this is not something that can fix with 10 to 15 years of 10% of apartments being affordable.
Can you tell she's very passionate about this issue? Thank you so very Megan, thank you so very much. Barbara, I'm going to come to you in a little minute here, so I'd like you to share your story. She says, I'd like you to share your story, but Bridget, I want to come back to you. And the question I would like to ask you, especially what Megan just shared, she said it's going to take everyone having honest conversations. And so the question is there sufficient coordination between agencies working to address the issue of homelessness?
I don't know if I can really follow up with what she said. That was really good. Actually, I'm going to say our COC, I've only been in this position for 5 months now, and I'm going to say our COC, we are a group, a network of public services that collaborate on a monthly basis. Either it's a COC meeting and or a peer-to-peer group that we are looking to each other for information to solve situations that we're having. We can't find housing for this person, we're collaborating. So I think we're doing well with our agencies, but to follow up with what is really going on with the affordable housing in the units, we have to be raw, we have to be honest. We can build it, that are going to come, but how are we going to sustain the housing for the individuals that are going to be placed into these apartments? One of the things that we actually have done, and the Homeless Coalition has signed an MOU with the Lakeland Housing Authority for the emergency housing vouchers. And so this will actually help the individuals that are on our list that aren't receiving any money move into that apartment that's $800 a month. And then they can have wraparound services that are going to actually be provided. I'm looking right at PJ right now. He's one of our developers, and it's Swan Lake, that actually have services on site for individuals. Now it's mixed income. You know, there's mixed income individuals that are going to be living there, but there's going to be wraparound services for the individuals. Housing individuals is just a small little fraction. Now that's my job. All we want to do is end homelessness. However, we have to come back to full circle, and how are we going to have those people sustain the housing that we're providing? And it's things like this to educate everyone, because each and every one of you can go ahead and help us, like we're doing today, give us ideas of what more we can do, and we can do things better. So I think with the emergency housing vouchers, that will help the individuals that are currently on our list to receive housing. But we also have to find out how we're going to help the actual workers of 40 hours a week sustain their housing.
Thank you so very much. And it is clear, Mary, that you're going to have to host a second such meeting. We're going to be hearing from the audience in a little bit, because, as you said, you'd like to hear what each person, well, maybe not each person, but
why not? Everybody has a voice.
You'd like to hear some responses from the audience. Before we do, though, before we get to the audience questions, Barbara, we promised that we would have you share your story, so I think we'd like you to just go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara.
I found myself in an abusive relationship back in 2018. I was living in Pennsylvania, right down here to Polk. Ended up at Talbot House for about 4 months. They had me provided me a place to stay. Found a job, lost the job, found the house, lost the house. I am now living in Gospel Village with Ryan. And I'm working at the Homeless Coalition during the week, and I work for Brian on the weekend. And this is my passion, is to put back and give back to the people that have given to me over the last 4 years. It's just wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I paid her to tell me that she works for us. I just want to go ahead and say thank you for both of you. I have to say something to this woman right here. She gets up earlier than I even get up to take a bus to come down to our little housing, our homeless coalition. She, no disrespect to my other employees here, she's the most reliable person. That citrus connection is really on time. She is on there every day, rain or shine. However, if it is raining, we will go back. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much. We said we would share some questions that came in as we listened to our panelists tonight, and our community engagement director, Trinity Lorena, has some questions there that she would like to pose.
Yeah, so one of the things we did is we sent out a survey that lots of you actually filled out. So we've got a couple of questions, but these, we are also open to the audience, so just raise your hand and I will come over and find you if you have some questions. But I'm going to start with one that was submitted via the survey, and it asked, it was my understanding that the city of Lakeland intended on hiring several individuals to assess and catalog the current homeless residents on our streets, with the express objective of better serving them. 1, has that happened? 2, what future plans does Lakeland have for affordable housing? Talked about that one.
We did, and we did it for 2 years, and they were wonderfully folded into existing not-for-profits which is where they belong. So that we could turn around and use those case managers to be able to continue to help equip people going forward. it was and it has been very effective. We helped get over 180 people into housing during that period of time. I do want to use this as a slight modification moment to talk about percentages of apartments. We don't do 10% apartments. We do 25 to 35% apartments where we do affordable housing. We also do 100% affordable housing. Units of 82 and 85, and we have many of them going on. Midtown Boston is a great example of that. And so part of who has been able to be placed in those are the people that those case managers have helped work. The wonderful thing about having that case manager work is that we cut through people who really aren't looking for solutions and find the people who are. So we're always trying to create the episodic issues and get them into housing as quickly as possible. And you have to have feet on the street to be able to do that. We've been light on the law enforcement side with respect to some of the things that we can do, particularly in downtown, and that's a staffing issue to some degree. As we are taking a look for budgeting this next year on additional law enforcement people, that will give us the ability to have more of that downtown. And that isn't just to try and make life difficult for those people. It's really trying to help understand what their needs are and help them get located. On the veterans side, we work extremely hard at trying to help get all veterans into housing, and we want to continue to do that. There's 80-some communities in the United States now that are absolutely kind of 100% veterans are found in housing. And it's done. We'd like to be on that list as we go forward. And so many times those veterans just don't know where to go. They don't know the pieces to get locked in. If we can do that, we just have to have time with them.
Thank you. All right, we have some questions from the audience.
My question is more along the lines of jobs for our people who are experiencing homeless. I work with the job that I do. I help them get into housing. Mostly it's independent living where they share a house with somebody else. One of the problems that I run into, because I'm a social worker, this is what I do, major problems that I run into is getting their IDs, because Social Security is very useful.
That's how the tax system works, right?
Right. Okay, so, but at the same time, when it comes to jobs, what are we doing? I've only been here for 2 years, so in Lakeland, moved here because of the homeless population, the work that I do. And it was part of one of those things that I see that I go, this is what we're missing is work, because I have clients that want to work. They want desperately work.
One of the biggest restrictions for jobs is transit. And that's why Citrus Connection is such an important issue to us. So every time we're working on anything, where's the Citrus Connection spot to go there? And the biggest need I hear from all our employers is they need employees. So we need to do a better job of linking that together, because we have jobs. We just need to do that. Right. Good. Love to be able to talk more about that.
Hi, my name's Katie. One of the things that I hear from people that I meet, and my neighbors and things like that, is either that they're on fixed income, so they cannot afford these market rates for these apartments and homes, or they are facing like their housing, they got evicted. And once you are evicted, it's really hard to get another apartment, which can lead to homelessness. And so my question for the mayor and for the other organizations here, do you support or plan to support tenant protections, things that are like right to counsel if you're facing an eviction, or capping rent increases so that they don't outpace cost of living and things like that?
One of our goals this year is to support programs particularly for people who are renting and can't afford to leave that unit because it has mold and it has unlivable conditions in it, and to create not only an increased level of ordinance, this is Brian started our discussion on this, but not only to increase that level of ordinances with respect to what is expected, but fining for people who won't make those changes as landlords, so that it becomes much more punitive for them to be able to consider doing that. We heard some stories the other night at the peace meeting, which talked about the landlords with 4 kids that had deplorable conditions, and they just raised the rent. They didn't do anything to remedy it. We can't live with that, so that's part of what we need to do. The other thing is that legislatively, we recently increased the amount of money that we are giving for down payments, and to $3,000. We also increased the amount of payment assistance to $10,000 in this area district for homes that can be purchased. We've done a lot of infill opportunities for people to do that. But if you're renting and you're in a deplorable condition, and you know that there's not a marketplace to be able to move, and your landlord doesn't give a rent because all they want to do is take the money for being able to get the rent from you without repairing anything in the process, we don't have a good system today to be able to make those landlords accountable, and that's inexcusable. So that is our priority first.
So I just want to go ahead and chime in a moment here. What HCPC has actually started in July, we are hosting another event, and it's a landlord engagement. And so what we're going to need, we're trying to find the landlords that are willing to rent to the individuals that have the barriers, the evictions, the criminal record. Because as a landlord myself, the first thing you do, you give a background. You go in and say, oh, he's a felon, oh, no criminal. Next, $65 later, you get another application fee. So we're actually trying to build our portfolios of landlords that are willing to rent to or individuals that have such big barriers. And one of the biggest barriers are eviction, and how do you get the eviction off? Well, there are funds available. We haven't found them yet, but we are sniffing them out with landlord mitigation. And it's a wonderful thing because, when so many landlords have been burdened by renters, they don't want to rent to. They don't even want to rent to Section 8 voucher people. So with this mitigation fund, then we can actually help the landlord say, it's like an incentive. Like, look, we'll go in and do repairs to the household that was destroyed or whatnot. It's a process. We're starting it, but it's a great question. We're starting to talk about it because living now, we have to look out into the future. What's going to be best for the future? We have to get our pool of landlords willing to rent to our guests.
We're going to take maybe 2 more questions. Yes, so this lady right here and the gentleman back there, and then we will probably bring this part of the program to a close.
Does Lakeland have any kind of information portal or triage or homeless navigator, kind of like a welcome desk at the Chamber of Commerce, where you can say, this is who I am, this is what my situation is, and access or understand that there are no resources or these are the resources you need to contact, because access is so confusing once you get into the bureaucracy, and most of those people don't have internet access and cell phones. And I was wondering if you all are trying to coordinate the nonprofits amongst yourselves, but is there a disconnect in serving the community because of information?
Well, I'm going to also ask Bridget to chime in on this, but yes, we have coordinated entry through the Homeless Coalition, where if someone is at risk of homelessness or is homeless, they can start there to find housing. We also have United Way, wherever Scott is, I'm doing a plug for the United Way, 211, that can help you access services as well. And I think it's sort of a myth that people don't have cell phones.
I was just going to say that right now.
Our experience is that our folks who come to Talbot House for service, the majority of them have cell phones. Now they may have spotty service where it's off 1 month and it takes 3 months to get it back on, but there are resources, particularly through the Homeless Coalition, where you can learn about what resources are available in the community. Well, let me just make one last point. When I talked about 10% set aside for the poor in terms of housing, I'm looking at a county-wide focus. Lakeland, and I've worked with Bill a lot over the years. We do work with each other, and I think I made him mad, but It's a pretty good record. But when I look at homelessness, I'm looking at this entire county. And Lakeland city commissioners and the mayor have had the will to invest. And the other cities have been very slow in their response to homelessness. So when I talk about 20 years down the road and 500,000 people just in Lakeland, is that what you said? Which means probably close to 1 million people in this county, or more. We have to face facts that it can't just be a Lakeland solution. It has to be a countywide solution.
Okay.
So I would like to acknowledge, because the lady back there was talking about the system, and I would like to acknowledge a couple of people that I know personally that are here representing the United Way of Central Florida. I'd like to acknowledge June May, who is sitting back there and will be able to tell you a lot about that 211 system for assistance. So June, put your hands up, please. And I'd also like to acknowledge Stacy Walsh, who's sitting here with the United Way of Central Florida. So maybe before you get out of the room tonight, ma'am, you might see one of these two people. And I have just put them on the spot. I don't know, probably don't have a job tomorrow, but that's true.
Before we take our one last question, I wanted just to say this is not the end of the program. This is just the end of this program. This part of the program, there will be refreshments just outside the door. Get some coffee, get some scones, and then we're going to have breakout sessions in here for everybody who is live and in person tonight, so you can talk directly with the organizations who helped put this on. I also want to say for anyone who is watching on Facebook right now, we will have a better video posted a little later today. We are recording on 4 cameras right now. The live stream feed did not quite work as well as we had hoped. So we'll get a better video later. All right, well, so without further ado, our last question.
So it's a follow-up of this question. You addressed some of the protections for the renters. Given that rents are tripling and quadrupling so much faster than wage, when are we going to open up the dialogue about rent control? Because you can't legislate the morality of greed. You've got to legally legislate the acts and the will of the people in this room and the people in your office. So the specific question is there a dialogue at this moment about rent control here in this city and in this county?
Not to my knowledge.
Would you not like to say that on the mic, sir?
Not to my knowledge.
There we are. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience tonight, and thank you, audience members, both in-house and online, for the questions that you posed. As we mentioned, we're just closing out this portion of the program. It has been my honor to be your moderator for this evening. Can you put your hands together for a panelist? Break, and then we'll be back with some other discussions in a more informal setting.